Hi and welcome. Today I am reading The Tuesday Cafe. It's a book by Canadian author Don Trembath. It's won a lot of awards. As usual, if you'd like to say thank you, feel free to subscribe and maybe I'll eventually buy myself a cup of coffee. Okay. We are going to start with Chapter 1. After about 10 boring cases and a break that lasted almost the entire day, they called my name. Mom gave me a poke in the ribs with her elbow and said, "That's you. Get up there," in my ear. I guess she thought I'd forgotten my own name in all the excitement. I stood up and walked to the podium at the front. Mom stood behind me. "Harper Winslow," said the woman at the desk. She had big brown hair and those bright red fingernails that practically blinded me when I walked into the courtroom. Her voice was deep and loud. She had a little microphone off to one side of her desk, but she never used it. She didn't exactly smile much either. It was like she was saying to everyone in the courtroom, "I am going out tonight after work, and if you delinquents make me late, I am going to be very, very upset." I don't know about anyone else in here, but I sure hope she gets to where she's going on time. I nodded after she said my name, but I didn't say anything. Mom had told me to keep my mouth shut for a change, and I thought it would be a good idea to oblige her. Mom is always offering me helpful hints about what to say and what to wear. She herself is perfect. She read books on etiquette and how to raise healthy kids. Naturally, part of that means regular exercise, which she and my dad get every morning, but not me. I don't like exercise. It makes me sweat, which has been a sore point with them since I was about 3. My mom is 5 foot 3 inches tall and weighs 104 pounds. All of her friends say she is in perfect shape, but she always says, "Oh no, there's room for improvement, believe me." But I'll bet you $1 million that if you said that to her, "Is it me, or have you gained a pound or 2 since the last time I saw you?" she'd pull out your hair until you were bald. "Harper Winslow, you are charged with 1 count of arson, causing property damage in the amount of $200. How do you wish to plead?" "Guilty," I said. That was the one word Mom said I could say. Then a tall, skinny guy in a light blue suit stood up at the table to my right and started reading out of this little folder he had in his hands. "Your Honor, at approximately 10:30 on the morning of September 17th, the accused, Harper Prescott Winslow of Elmville, Alberta, was seen setting fire in a garbage can in the hallway at the Elmville Community High School. Witnesses say the accused set the fire by lighting a piece of paper he had torn from his binder and dropping it into the trash can. Flames immediately leapt out of the basket, scaring the accused. He tipped over the trash can in his haste to exit the scene, and in doing so, he spilled the burning papers all over the floor of the high school. The floors in this particular area are carpeted, Your Honor, and there was considerable damage done. Witnesses say had they not been on the scene to put out the fire, the whole situation could have been much worse." "What are you asking for?" said the judge, an older man with a wooden face that looked like it hadn't worn a smile in about 50 years. His eyes were small and jet black, and just about everyone stood before him squirmed when he looked at them. Mom had pointed that out to me earlier. "Your Honor, the boys' parents have already paid the necessary repair costs to the school and have assured us that severe discipline has been handed out at home. The accused was suspended from school for 1 full week and warned that one more incident and he would be expelled. Taking all this into account, Your Honor, we ask that you consider some form of community service work for the accused and possibly some time on probation." "This isn't the first offense, is it?" said the judge. He was looking straight at me now, and I could feel the hair on the top of my big toes starting to curl. "No, it isn't, Your Honor." "What were the others?" "Mischief and theft, 1 charge of each." There was silence for about a minute, and then the judge said to me, "So you decided to try to burn the school down, did you?" Now, this is where I could have said something like, "Excuse me, Your Honor, but how is a kid with a book of matches going to burn down a concrete high school?" But of course I kept my mouth shut. He continued to look at me, his face getting darker and darker. I licked my lips and swallowed. I was starting to get a bit nervous. "How old are you, Harper?" he asked me, breaking the silence. 15, I said. I figured if the judge was going to ask me questions, I'd better talk. "Pardon me?" 15, sir, I said. My dad had told me about that sir business. He can be pretty handy with the tips, too. When I was your age, he always says, I called everyone older than me sir. It's called respect. Then he goes on to tell me about all the trophies he's won playing hockey and baseball and tennis, and about how hard he works, even today, to stay in shape. But the truth is, and Mom drives him nuts about this all the time, it's his belly that is really starting to take shape. Last year at Christmas, she brought him a weigh scale and told him to hop on it. She bet that if he was under 210 pounds, they would go to the hockey game. If he was over, they would go to the opera. They went to the opera. I'm 6'2", Dad said. 210 is not overweight for 6'2". Look it up. You used to weigh 190, said Mom. You used to brag about it. 190 and not an ounce of fat, remember? Dad never said if he remembered or not. You're just getting old, Mom said. Dad turned 58 last year. Mom is 55. The other thing is he's starting to go bald, but I won't get into that. By the time this day is over, I might be bald myself. And you've been charged 3 times with serious crimes, said the judge. Well, kind of yes, and kind of no, sir. The mischief charge when I was 8, and I hid under the bed in the spare bedroom. My parents couldn't find me, so they called the police. Typical overreaction. First, I get no attention at all, and then I have Elmville's finest, which ain't so hot I can tell you, combing the bushes looking for me. It was the sergeant who found me. Anybody look under the beds? I heard him say, approaching the door to the room I was in. He didn't wait for an answer. At least, I didn't hear one. He just bent down and flipped up the covers, and there I was, flashlight in hand, reading a comic book. Well, well, the sergeant said, we've been looking for you. They charged me with mischief. We were terrified, my mother had said when it was all over, as she searched madly in her purse for the phone number of a person she had to call before her Chamber of Commerce meeting. If you ever pull something like that again, said my dad, who had hurried straight home after his last appointment to take part in the search. The theft charge was even dumber, mainly because I didn't steal anything. It happened last year. I was in this little store, Ready Mart to be precise, buying a slush, when all of a sudden the owner, this little Chinese guy that no one can understand, not even his own wife, and she's Chinese, locks the door and starts calling everybody a bunch of crooks. Somebody finally gets the guy calmed down, and he says that somebody had swiped the wallet out of his wife's purse. I guess her purse had been at the back of the store or something, near the pop. Why anyone would leave an open purse at the back of a convenience store is beyond me, but apparently that didn't matter. We were all thieves until somebody fessed up to the crime. Some grade 10s who didn't want to be late for phys ed looked around and saw me and told me to confess. One of them knew my name. Hey, Winslow, he said. I didn't know who he was. Some guy with red hair and a big set of knuckles. He held up under my nose. You steal this lady's wallet? Now, you tell me what I'd be doing standing around waiting for a cream soda slush if I had swiped this lady's wallet. And even if I had swiped it, where did I put it? It wasn't on me. It wasn't anywhere. No one could find the stupid thing. Maybe you ran out and hid it somewhere and came back, said the guy with his knuckles under my nose, after I raised the question to him. All I could do was hope he wasn't contagious. Hey, is that the doctor's kid? Said somebody else. Yeah, it is, said Knuckles. The spoiled doctor's kid stealing money from an innocent immigrant. The somebody else who I'm sure didn't even know what an immigrant was. I should give you a pop in the mouth, you little twerp. Come on, give her back her wallet. The threat of violence scared someone into calling the RCMP, and within an hour, a car came screeching up to the store. Lights flashing, and I was soon led away. They charged me with theft, even though they never found anything on me. A day later, the Chinese lady phoned the police and told them she had found the wallet at the bank, where she had left it by mistake when making a deposit. I did not have to go to court, but apparently someone forgot to take the charge off my record. Actually, too, sir, I said to the judge, the theft charge was dropped. It was a mistake. So that makes it okay then? Said the judge. He was really starting to get upset. Don't you just anything in this courtroom, young man. He was hot now. He slammed his gavel down so hard that the glass of water he had on his desk tipped on its side, and the water ran over the edge. Now look what you've done, he cried, leaping to his feet. Carolyn! He bellowed to the woman sitting on the desk below him, who suddenly looked very much alive. Get me a towel. No, you, he roared, pointing a finger at me as if it was a gun. You get a towel, and you clean this mess up. Get moving. I stood frozen for a second. Then somebody opened a door at the side of the courtroom and flipped the lady named Carolyn a towel. She passed it to me. The look on her face said that she had reached her very, very upset stage. I went to where the judge was standing and mopped the water. He was fuming. "Down there," he said, pointing to a few drops on the floor. When I was finished, I walked back to the podium and handed the towel to my mom. "You hang on to it," roared the judge again. "You've passed on enough to your parents already." His lips were shaking. He was so mad. "I happen to know your mother and father, young man," he said after taking a few deep breaths. You could tell he was trying to keep it from losing it again. "I know them very well, in fact. I know they have committed their very lives to the betterment of this town, and that a lot of people have benefited enormously from their generosity. And you've just gone and tried to burn it all down." Kaboom! Went the gavel again. I jumped about a foot into the air. "You should be ashamed of yourself, Harper Winslow. You should be embarrassed by your behavior, embarrassed by what you've done. Instead, I don't sense a bit of remorse in you. That whole school could be a pile of ashes right now, and I don't think you'd care. Would you? Would you?" "Yes, I would care, sir," I said. I wasn't kidding either. I was scared to death. "What would you care about?" he snapped. I was really under interrogation now. I would care if my school burned down. I didn't want to burn it down. I was just mad." "What were you mad about?" "I had to clean the locker room again for no reason, and I didn't like it." "Why didn't you like it?" "Because I always have to do it." "So you started a fire?" "Yes, I guess I did. A fire that could have burned down the entire school that was full of students and teachers at the time?" "Well, I really don't see how that little fire could have burned down the entire school, but..." "Oh, you don't?" "Not really, no. And what makes you an expert on fires?" "I'm not an expert, sir." "Oh, you're not? But you still don't think there was any risk there?" "Well, maybe there was. There either was or there wasn't. Which is it?" "I don't know, sir." "You don't know?" "No, I don't." "That is the most intelligent thing I've heard you say. Of course you don't know. How could you know? How could I have known I was going to spill water on myself today? How can someone know when they're going to get hit by a car? They don't know. That's how. That's why we discourage people from doing stupid things, like setting fires in trash cans in the middle of a school. Because accidents can happen, and neither you, nor I, nor anyone else can prevent them." He took a breather and leaned back in his chair, but his eyes never left me. "How are you doing at school, Harper?" he said. "Not so hot, Your Honor," I said. "Do you have many friends?" "Not really." "How are your grades?" "C's, mostly, a few D's." "Do you like sports?" "Nope." "I beg your pardon?" "No, sir." "Do you have a girlfriend?" "No, sir." "What kind of interests do you have? What do you do when you're not in school?" I couldn't think of anything. I was starting to feel pretty lousy. "Your Honor," said my mother behind me, "can I say something?" "Of course, Mrs. Winslow. Step forward, please." All of a sudden, he was Mr. Kindness. So Mom stepped forward. The heels on her shoes went click, click on the floor, and she smoothed her hair with her fingers. She just got a new hairdo. Short, blunt, and sassy, she likes to call it. And she checks to see what she looks like wherever we go. She used to take me with her whenever she went to have her hair done, which seemed like every second day. But ever since I said, after she asked me what I thought she should do, "Just shave the stupid thing," and made the hairdresser laugh, she has left me at home. I was grounded for that little comment. In hindsight, calling her head a stupid thing was not a brilliant idea. "Your Honor, Harper really enjoys reading. He loves books, and he has tried writing before, but he has always stopped before he finishes what he's doing." "Thank you, Mrs. Winslow," said the judge. Mom stepped back. "So you fancy writing, do you?" he said, looking back at me. I shrugged my shoulders, but he didn't notice. "Well then, here is your sentence. You will do 40 hours of community service work at your school. I will arrange with one of your counselors to keep track of your work. And you will submit to me within 1 month of today a 2,000-word essay titled, 'How I Plan to Turn My Life Around.' It will be typewritten, double-spaced, and if it's not in on time, or if it does not reflect any serious thought on your behalf, then I will come down on you like a prairie rainstorm, only I won't let up. Do you understand your sentence? Yes, I do, sir, I said. I didn't really, but I didn't think now would be the time to ask for clarification. You can obtain help if you want, but you will be in big trouble if I find out someone else had a direct hand in the actual writing. And so will the person who helps you. Is that understood? Yes, sir. I'm giving you a break here, Harper. I hope you realize that. It is because of your parents. They are two wonderful people, and I have had the pleasure of meeting your older brother and sister, and I have found them to be wonderful too, and I have no reason to believe you can't work out to be the same. Thank you, sir, I said, but I really didn't mean it. That will be all. Next case, please, Carolyn. Karen immediately bellowed out another name, and then she looked at me as if to say, "Move it!" So I did. Mom and I left the courtroom together. When we got to the car, she started in again about how lucky I was that my father is so well connected, and how she hoped to hell I'd learn my lesson. She dropped me off at home and told me there were leftovers in the fridge for supper. She wouldn't be home, and neither would Dad. I went inside and flopped on the couch. I was still feeling pretty lousy. Maybe I am lucky to have the kind of family I do, but I sure don't feel it. I didn't bother eating anything for supper. I just hung around and then went to bed. I didn't even think about the stupid essay. Chapter 2. A couple of days later, a big story ran in the Elmville Eye-Opener about the kid who set a fire in the new high school. Teachers who hadn't even known there was a fire were quoted as saying they were scared to death, and the chairman of the school board suggested immediate expulsion would have been a more suitable punishment. "This school is the heart and soul of the community," he said in the paper, "and already we have people trying to destroy it. It makes me sick." Now I was a cancer. My name was withheld from the press in accordance with the Young Offenders Act, which also came under attack, but just about everyone in town knew who the story was about. I got threatened a few times. It seems the flick of my Bic lighter ignited the civic pride in every tough who ever hung out at the schoolyard with the smoke hanging from his mouth. I was pushed and shoved, and Darren Talbot put me in a headlock. Mr. Jorgensen, the phys ed teacher who started the whole thing by telling me to clean the locker room for the 4th time in 2 weeks, even though it's supposed to be a job that everyone gets a turn at, was standing right there when Tony Phillips and Trevor Connors knocked my books out of my hands, sending paper all over the place, but he never said anything. It was open season on me, basically, and everybody was taking a shot. Dad came out of the whole thing smelling like a rose, of course. People who didn't even have an appointment stopped by the clinic just to say how sorry they felt for him and Judy, my mom, and how they wished everything would get turned around. The mayor phoned to have a talk with him. Dad is a town councilor, so he and the mayor are good friends. They talked for about an hour. The same thing happened with Mom. She got all hugs from people in the grocery store, and anyone who walked into her boutique smiled and wished her well. It was like there had been a death in the family. If Dad had his way, there would have been, but Mom managed to cool him down. She said to him, "Look, honey, his name wasn't in the paper. No one outside of town will ever know. And besides, look at the support you're getting." He liked hearing that. Dad is thinking about taking a stab at provincial politics one year, so he is very concerned about his image. Not that he wasn't before. After Mom talked, he threw back the rest of his scotch and nodded his head, meaning, "Okay, fine, next topic, please." "Did I tell you what Roland wants him to do?" Mom continued. They were talking in the living room. I was sitting at the top of the stairs, supposed to be thinking about my assignment, but really listening to them. "Good old Rolly," said Dad, shaking his head, then leaning back against the couch. "Doing us a big favor. Make the boy write an essay, just what he needs." "I think it's a terrific idea," said Mom. "I think it is just what he needs. Something to get him thinking about his life." "How is he ever going to put an essay like that together?" said Dad, his confidence in me coming through loud and clear. Dad believes in confidence. He has a big picture of himself in his office at home, shaking hands with the mayor. Dad had just been elected as one of the town councilors. He is pretty serious looking most of the time, but in this picture, he has a big smile on his face. He wasn't wearing glasses then, and his hair was still more black than gray. "That is a picture of a confident man," he always tells me. "I want to see you in a picture like that someday." Okay, I always say, as if it was just a matter of standing in front of a camera and looking confident. It's not simply a matter of standing in front of a camera and looking confident, he always says. Confidence is something that goes from the inside out. My dad has a deep, strong voice, and there are lots of times when I think his favorite pastime in the world is to hear himself talk, especially when it comes to stuff like this. I've signed him up with a writing group, says Mom. She is so efficient. Then I did a double take. A double take. A writing group? What writing group? What is a writing group? It's called the Tuesday Cafe. It's a writing class. They meet in the city every Tuesday night at some school or something. Or a cafe, I guess. How'd you hear about it? There was an ad for it in the Yellow Pages. I phoned and left a message on their machine. I saw it quite by mistake, actually. What's the message say? It says the next session starts this Tuesday and to be there at 7 o'clock. That's it? No, it went on about something or other. Phyllis Carmichael walked in with her daughter's wedding dress, so I wasn't really listening. What's wrong with Phyllis Carmichael's daughter's wedding dress this time? It's not big enough. Dad started to laugh. They better check the doors of the church, see if they're big enough. Ben, my mom said, but she was laughing too. Dad can be pretty funny sometimes, when he's not busy being Dr. Benjamin Winslow, or Counselor Benjamin Winslow, or Friend of all the people Benjamin Winslow. I suppose that means another ride to the city, he said, rubbing his eyes. The city he's talking about is Edmonton. It's about a 40-kilometer drive, one way. I can take him, said Mom. I'll make Tuesday my shopping night. She means for material for the dresses she makes. Mom sews dresses and pantsuits and sells them in the store she runs. She does her own designs and everything. She's pretty good too, I guess. She puts my dad through med school doing it. My dad has been a doctor for 32 years. He graduated the same year my brother William was born. Dad always tells the story of when he and my mom were at the big graduation banquet for all those med students, and right in the middle of it, my mom starts going into labor. Dad, number 4 in the entire graduating class, faints face down in his dessert. My sister Clarissa was born a year later. Dad says he stick my brother and sister with him on his house calls, so my mom could catch up on either her sleeping or her sewing, whichever she chose. He used to say that when she caught up on her sleeping, she'd want to sew when the kids went to bed. But if she caught up on her sewing, she'd be frisky and wanting to catch up with me. So whenever I'd come home and see the light on in her sewing room, I'd slip the kids a nickel apiece and tell them to run up to bed. People always laugh when he tells those stories. Even people he's known for 20 years or longer. Some of them. He never tells any stories about me, though. He just says, Harper, by the time you came along, all the good stories were used up already. You gotta believe him, too. My brother moved out of the house and had gone to university when I was 2, and my sister followed the day after my 4th birthday. I remember my mom crying all over the place at my birthday party, and William telling me to knock it off already when I asked him why there was no money in the cake. Dad heard us and slapped a quarter down in front of me and told me to stop being so insensitive. I didn't even know what the word meant. Hope this doesn't take up a lot of your time. This is Harper's mess, and he should have to be the one to clean it up himself, Dad was saying. I'd lost track of them for a minute. It won't, said Mom. It can't. I have all the gowns for the Carmichael wedding party to do, and the Johnsons after that. I don't have a lot of time to give up. Good, said Dad. Then he got off the couch. He had a meeting to go to. The hospital board or something. It was Thursday, so my mom would be home until 7:30, and then she would go to the seniors' home with a shawl or a blanket she had made on the weekend and give it away at the bingo. Neither of them had spoken to me much since my day in court. Dad said he was too upset to even talk about it, but that didn't stop him from going on and on whenever anybody phoned or came by the door. And Mom told me this morning that she had already said everything she had to say about it, but obviously she hadn't. Because how am I ever going to find out about this Tuesday cafe thing, whatever that is? Dad left, and Mom ran the dishwasher and did a few things in the basement. My brother and sister are coming over on the weekend, and Mom always gets the toys ready for their kids. Then she puts on her coat and boots and stepped out the door. Nobody says goodbye anymore. Chapter 3. I went and met Miss Davis today. She's the school counselor. I have been ordered to spend 2 hours a week with her until the end of the year. She told me Mondays and Wednesdays were fine for her, which meant they were fine for me too. So we set up our appointments for Monday and Wednesday mornings. Today is Monday. I have never been in her office before, but I know who Miss Davis is. She's always coming to the classrooms and telling everybody about the program she's offering and what her job is. She is a guidance counselor. She helps to guide people like me through the sometimes difficult years of adolescence and high school. Those are her exact words. She is always smiling, and she always says hi when she passes me in the hallway, even though, like I said, I have never really met her before. I doubt if she even knew my name. She has long, auburn hair that never looks the same because she's always braiding it or wearing it up or down. She wears glasses, but she looks good in them, unlike every other person in the school who wears glasses. Or most of them anyway. She buys her clothes at my mom's store, so Mom is naturally crazy about her. That's Sally Davis. She is such a lovely girl. And what a figure. I would die for that figure. She can walk into the store and wear just about anything. I want her to model, but she wants nothing to do with it. Now, she would be a good teacher for you, Harper. She's not a teacher, I always say. She's not anything like a teacher. She's funny and nice and cares about people. The first thing she did after I sat down was ask me about the fire I started. She wanted to know why I started it. So I told her the bit about cleaning out the locker room, and then she said, "No, I want the real reason." I didn't say anything for a minute. I just stared at her. And then I started bawling my eyes out. I was crying, and I've never done that before in my life, not even in front of my mom. And there I was, crying like crazy in front of this woman I didn't even know. Then she asked me a real stupid question. She said, "Who are you crying for, Harper?" It was so stupid, I didn't even know the answer to it. So I just kept on crying. Then she said again, "Who are all the tears for, Harper?" She was talking real softly and was leaning towards me in her chair. I could smell her perfume. "My dog," I said. I was just being smart. I don't even have a dog. My parents wouldn't let me get one. "What's your dog's name?" she said. "Arnie," I said. I didn't even know what I was talking about. "What kind of dog is Arnie?" "A boxer," I said between sniffs. I was starting to settle down. "What does he look like?" "He's about this high," I said, putting my hand about a foot above the floor, "and he's black and white with these 2 big black patches over both of his eyes." "What do you and Arnie like to do together?" she said. Boy, I was really getting into it now. "We like the same books," I said. "We read a lot. He likes the same potato chips I do. He's a bit of a pig, though, so we can't eat them in the living room. We have to go upstairs to my room and eat them there if we want to watch TV. "What kind of books do you read?" "Westerns, mostly. Detective stuff. My brother left a whole bunch of books in the basement that I go through all the time. I like Mickey Spillane. Arnie likes Zane Grey and Louis L'Amour, because there's usually a picture of a horse on the cover." "Those are adult books, are they not?" "I don't know. I don't have a problem understanding them or anything." She started to laugh a bit when I said that. It made me feel good to make her laugh, even though I had no idea it was so funny. She didn't say anything for a minute, and then she said, "Did something happen to Arnie, Harper?" I could feel my chin start to wiggle, and pretty soon the old tears were running down my cheeks again. It was all so stupid. There I was, crying about a dog that didn't even exist, and talking to this person who was supposed to be helping me, even though I don't need any help. Some help she was, even if I did. I go into her office, feeling fine, and 10 minutes later I'm a babbling moron. "Gee, thanks, Doc. Next time I'll take 2 aspirins and hop into bed." "Tell me what happened to Arnie," she said again. I sniffed and shook my head. What was I supposed to tell her? That Arnie is a figment of my imagination? She'd send me to the nut house. "Do you and Arnie still read together?" I nodded. I didn't know what I was saying anymore. "Was Arnie hurt or anything?" "No," I said. "So why were you crying for Arnie?" I shrugged my shoulders. "What makes you think you were crying for Arnie?" I shrugged my shoulders again. I was looking down at the floor during all of this. I couldn't look her in the eye. "Suppose I say I think those tears were for you. What would you maybe say to that?" "Maybe they were," I said. I barely mumbled it, actually. I didn't feel much like talking or thinking, for that matter. She was silent for a minute. Then she said, "I know you don't have a dog, Harper." She floored me when she said that. She knew all along and she never said anything. I looked up at her and she was staring straight at me with this sympathetic look on her face. I had never noticed before, but she has big, deep brown eyes, and she was practically hypnotizing me with. I talked to your parents before you came here today. They mentioned something about how you've always wanted a dog, but I didn't think that you were. But they didn't think that you were responsible enough for one. Now they think you've just proved them right. Is that right, Harper? Are you not responsible enough to take care of a dog like Arnie? I was silent for a minute. Then I said, if my mom and dad were so responsible, I wouldn't even be here. Then I got up and left. Chapter 4. Actually, we're at 30 minutes. I'm going to pause it here, and the next part will be in the next section.